Yeah. Character V. Shame is like it's on Lamed Vav and Bez. Okay. Thank Hashem that we're able to learn Torah every day. Especially we're learning, we should have this English immediately. Learning for a full Shlema. Everyone that needs father and father. Okay. Starts like this. I guess before we start, we just need to, the only thing that we need to know is that Pigel works. Pigel is when someone has thoughts by the carbon that he's going to sprinkle the blood, let's say, out of the allotted time, or he's going to eat the meat out of the allotted time, and then it becomes so invalid that if someone would then eat that carbon, he would incur karis. Some restrictions on when this works. How does Pigel work? It needs to be that everything else about the carbon is kosher, and the only thing that's invalid is this one thought that he has. Some other details as well, which we'll see as we learn. So Bishami says, and all applications of blood that's put on the outer mizbeach. That means the what's called in the Mishkan the copper mizbeach. It means the one that was in the courtyard. Shenasan b'matana achas. That what's the ches over here? Shenasan matana achas, not b'matan. The Shita Mechubetz is correct. That was put, was only one application was done. In other words, normally sacrifices, most of the sacrifices, are two applications of blood on the two caddy corners, which makes it that it's put on all four walls. Because you put it on the corner, you get two walls there. So if it's put one application, keeper, that's good enough. So in other words, it's supposed to be two applications, but one is actually does the atonement. But b'chatas, when it comes to a carbon chatas, which a carbon chatas is unique, which you're actually supposed to put on all four corners, on the upper part, and the four corners. Chatas behema is on the four corners, you put the finger, so that shtei matanis is going to be enough. That's the opinion of Bishamai. Bishamai says all carbonis is one, satisfactory, except for the chatas, which requires two. Basil says, Av chatas shenitna matanachas keeper. Basil says by the carbon chatas as well, one application is enough. Yeah, so they're arguing about the carbon chatas. Lefikach, what comes out is, let's say the first application of blood comes out of leniency here. First application of blood was put properly. In other words, what's called bishtika, without any improper thought, invalidating thoughts. So once you did the first application, the carbon is already satisfactory. It's already good. And the second application of blood was chutzluzmana, was out of its allotted time. That's going to turn pigel, right? Nevertheless, it doesn't become pigel. It's keeper. It's already an atonement, because the main qualifying application of blood was already done. Bishtika was already done with the proper thoughts. Next is v'imnasa nesarishayna chutzluzmana v'sashniya chutzlum kaima. Now it comes out the chumrah. First case was a kula, was a leniency. Now it comes out a chumrah. The chumrah goes like this. Comes out like this. That if the first application was chutzluzmana, was with thoughts of pigel. So usually, if there was any other thoughts, disqualifying thoughts, that would disqualify it even from being pigel, because pigel has to be everything kosher except for that one thought of pigel. And over here, where he does have other disqualifying thoughts, but nevertheless it remains pigel. Why? Because the first one was the main one. What happens afterwards isn't significant. There's going to be kares. Okay, so it comes out of kula and the chumrah from this concept that really one application is satisfactory. Anything that's put on the inner altar, there's several sacrifices that are put on the inner altar. By the way, the next chapter is Yisrael Mekayman. So we have all the different types of sacrifices listed there. That's what we say every day. So this in Yisrael Mekayman, you discuss the first ones is Chatas Apnim, Syrian Israfim, etc. So anything that the application of blood is put on the inner altar, which means in the sanctuary, Shemchis, probably it takes out the shin as well. Takes out the whole sheim. Shechisar achas min hamatana is kilo like keeper. Takes out the word kilo as well. The Shitim Kumetzes does some corrections here. But whatever the case is, if it's on the inner altar, then everything is significant. And if you even miss one, then there's no atonement. It's the opposite of the other sacrifice. The other sacrifices, just one is satisfactory. Over here, even if you miss one, it's invalid. Lefikach, therefore, nasan kulin ketiknan. If they were done all of them properly, and one application of blood was done, so psula vein bekars. Now here we have to add in one piece of information. Why is it not pigel? If everything is significant, why is it not pigel? So the answer is because ein mefaglim b'chatzi amater. Can't make pigel with only half of the qualifying application. Since each one is significant, you would need to have the thoughts of pigel by the entire application of blood, by all of them. Otherwise, since each application is the qualifying application, so you can't have thoughts by all of them properly and then by one of them not, and consider that pigel. It needs to be the entire thing. Okay. Tana Rabbanan, start in the Brisa, we start the Gemara. Minayin lenitanem al mizbeach achitzin shnasam matanachas shekiper. How do we know? The Mishnah taught us Machlekes Beishamay and Beisil Balachatas, but about all other kavanas, one application of blood is satisfactory. How do we know that one application of blood would do it? Talmud Leimar, Pasuk says, "V'dam zevachecha yishafich." Pasuk says that the blood of your sacrifice you pour. What is it? Devarim Yud Beis. Devarim 12. What does it say there?
27.
12:27. Okay.
What?
Yeah, this is in Parshas Re'eh. Feels like we read this on the holidays. Re'eh. No, this is not the holiday reading. So where's it? 27. Okay, so here it says, although I have permitted you to sacrifice non-sacred animals, however, your holy offerings and voluntary offerings, which you will have, should be carried out and brought to the holy temple, the place that God chose. If they are burnt offerings, the meat and the blood should go on the altar of God, your God. If they are peace offerings, their blood should be poured upon the altar of God, your God, and you should eat the meat. So it says like this in the Hebrew: "Vasisa leisecha basar v'hadam al mizbach Hashem alekecha." You will do the burnt offerings. The meat and the blood should go on the altar. The blood of the shlamim. You pour the blood on the altar and you eat the meat. Okay, now, pasuk over here says, the blood of your peace offering you pour. Now, pouring sounds like one application, which means that the basic application for sacrifices is just one application because it says yishafech, to pour, as opposed to sprinkle.
Oh.
Sprinkle would mean many times, or just however many times there are. But pouring is just one pouring. The Gemara asks, okay, so if that's your source, the pasuk in Parshas Re'eh, B'hai lahachi udasa. that pasuk is dedicated just to teach us that one application is satisfactory, the qualifying application. We need this pasuk to teach me something else. Look at the Tanya, which taught in the Brisa. How do you know that all karbanas, after the application of the blood, that you have to pour the remainder of the blood onto the foundation of the mizbeach, called the yisaid? How do you know that you have to pour all the remaining blood, if there is remaining blood, onto the foundation? You say the blood of the offering is poured. And second, the blood of the offering is poured, so it's teaching me that one application is satisfactory. Now it's coming to teach me that the remainder of the blood needs to be poured. How could you use it for both? So nafkale mitirebi. We have another source for the pouring of the blood afterwards. We have it from what Rebbe teaches. The Tanya was taught in a brayso. Rebbe Yomer, Banishar Badam Yimatze, by the Chatas Ha'oif, by the bird sin offering, it says the remainder of the blood should be squeezed out onto the foundation. So it says, Shein Tam Lemer Badam. You didn't need to repeat the word Badam, the blood. You didn't need to repeat that. You could have said, Banishar Yimatze. The remainder should be squeezed out, because the pasuk before that was talking about the blood. Let's see. It's by Yikra Hey. Do you have it? What pasuk?
Yeah, hey, 5.
5:5?
5:9.
5:9.
5:9.
So it says that you should sprinkle some of the blood of the sin offering directly from the bird on the wall of the altar, and the remainder of the blood should be squeezed out directly from the bird onto the base of the altar. So he's asking, the Bryce is asking, why does it need to say the remainder of the blood? It started off saying, you sprinkle some of the blood of the sin offering on the wall of the altar, and the remainder should be squeezed out. You don't have to say the remainder of the blood. Why do you have to say the remainder of the blood? You're talking about the blood. So it says, why does it have to teach us the word badam again? It only says by the korban chatas. The nickname for a korban chatas here is matan dalid, because the chatas was put on all four corners. So the Brisa calls it matan dalid, application of 4. The other karbanos were shtayim shein arba, 2 corners which made 4. The chatas was on each of the 4 corners.
Was chatos put on the outside or the inner mizbeach?
So the regular chatas
Wait
was
a minute,
outside.
Is that enough to Holly Lowenstein?
And tell this out.
Sorry.
Good morning, Yitzi.
Good morning, sir. Good morning. Good to see you, sir.
Thank you. And please thank you to Hillel for helping me figure out how to get back on.
I'm not thanking him. You can thank him yourself. Just kidding.
Okay. So we say I would only know that what's poured on the base of the altar is only by a chatas, because the pasuk says it by a chatas. How do I know? Well, the chatas is on the outer altar. There is a chatas on the inner one, but we're referring to the outer altar. Because what is it? So what's the pasuk by the chatas? So what it says. That's called Dama Yishbach al Yisayim Mizbeach. The pasuk says that the kohen takes from in his finger. I'll read it in English. The priest should take some of its blood with his finger and place it on the horns of the altar used for the burnt offering. Then he should pour all of its remaining blood on the base of the altar. That's what it says by a chatas. It doesn't say it by other karbanos. So how do you know by other karbanos? So it says shar damim minayin. How do you know other karbanos? You have to pour it onto the base. It repeats it. It didn't have to say the word blood. Why does it say the word dam? It's coming to teach us that all karbanos, you have to put the remainder of the blood on the foundation, which means what we just gained from this is that we have a second source for pouring the blood onto the foundation, which frees up the dam zavachecha yishafech, you should pour the blood, which allows us to learn that there's one application of blood, which is the qualifying application. If we were saying that you can't learn two things from B'dam Zavachim Daf, he said you're not, because we have another source for the second thing that you wanted to learn, which was the putting the remainder of the blood on the base, on the site. Umar says, you think you freed it up by finding another verse for that? We have other things that we learned from this pasuk. Look at the Tanya. We have a brisa that says, "Minayin lenitanim bezrika shnasam b'shvicha yatsa." How do you know that a sacrifice that the blood is supposed to be sprinkled, but instead it was poured? How do you know that you're still yaitza? Says in the pasuk that the blood of the offering is poured. That teaches me that if it wasn't sprinkled, instead it was poured, it wasn't thrown. Instead it was just poured. Which is, thrown is from sprinkled is from far. Poured is from up close. So how do you know that that's good? Because we learned from the pasuk with dam zevachim yishafich. So again, we have another kasha over here. How can you learn dam zevachim yishafich? Teaches me that one application is satisfactory. We use that pasuk to teach me that it's kosher if it was done shvicha, if it was poured. My answer is we argue on that. Our Mishnah and our Brisa that taught that the source of one application is satisfactory from Dam Zevachim Yishafich holds that if it's poured, you're not Yaitzer. It's the opinion of Rabbi Akiva. It comes from an interesting source, this Rabbi Akiva. He says that Zrika doesn't go under the category of pouring, of Shvicha, and pouring doesn't go under the category of Zrika. They're totally separate and they can't be mixed. The Tanan, as it was taught in a Mishnah, Beirach Berchas HaPesach Pater Es Shel Zevach. There's a bracha that you say when you eat the Korban Pesach. It's Asher Kedeshanu B'Mitzvos V'Tzivanu Lechol HaPesach. Let's see what the test is over here. Lechol Es HaPesach. Then there's a bracha that you say when you eat the Korban Chagiga, which was eaten together with the Pesach, right beforehand. You filled up on the Chagiga, and then you ate the Pesach. That bracha was Asher Kedeshanu B'Mitzvos V'Tzivanu Lechol Es HaZevach. To eat the Korban Chagiga. The Zevach is the Korban Chagiga. So there's two separate brachas. If someone said the bracha on the Pesach, so he's satisfied the Chagiga as well. Shel Zevach, if he says the bracha on the Chagiga, Leipater Es HaPesach, he does not satisfy the Korban Pesach, Divrei Rabbi Shmuel. Now the explanation that's given, why is this? It's because the Korban Pesach, the blood is poured, and the Chagiga, the blood is sprinkled. So what we're saying here, according to Rabbi Shmuel, is that sprinkling goes under the category of pouring. Since it goes under the category of pouring, so therefore the Korban Pesach is the more general one, because included in the way the Korban Pesach was brought could also be the sprinkling of the Korban Chagiga included in that. So somehow that bracha, I'm not sure exactly why that connects. Sprinkling of the blood, it means that the bracha is going to work, but I'm not sure. Do you have any notes on that? Why does the sprinkling of the blood affect the bracha? Do you have a note on the bottom?
Top.
Let me just see over here. Let me just check this. 1 second.
This is simple.
Holding Lamed Zayin. Okay, so Test Zion.
Horse.
He asked another question. That's the problem with this. It's distracting a little bit. He asks, how could you say the bracha on the Korban Pesach before the Korban Chagiga? How could you say you're not allowed to eat after the Korban Pesach? So if you say the bracha on the Korban Pesach, how are you going to eat the Chagiga after? It doesn't. They didn't make the what's it called yet. Bifocals. The answer is an interesting answer. It says that what you're not allowed to eat after the Korban Pesach is only the last kazayas of the Korban Pesach. So you're allowed to start with the Korban Pesach, eat the other Korban, and then the main thing is that you have to finish off with one remaining kazayas of the Korban Pesach. I didn't know that. Okay. I'm not seeing the main point. Is that why does it connect? Let me see what these guys say.
Naftali, do you want to tell him or should I tell him?
Yes, you. I missed you.
That's you.
Okay, whatever the case is, the opinion of Rabbi Yishmael is that the Korban Pesach is more inclusive because the blood is poured, and that includes also the sprinkling, and so therefore the bracha of the Korban Pesach would cover. Now, Rabbi Akiva is going to argue. Rabbi Akiva says, that's the Rabbi Yishmael. Rabbi Akiva says, this one doesn't cover that sacrifice, and this one doesn't cover that sacrifice. You follow? Which means that I don't have Zrika included in the Shvicha. And so our question originally was that how could you tell me that one application of the blood is satisfactory? You learn it from Dam Zavachim Yishafech. When I learned from Dam Zavachim Yishafech that if it's poured, that's satisfactory. So, and we already used the pasuk. The answer is we don't hold of that, and therefore we don't use the pasuk. We're following Rabbi Akiva. Okay, next. Hilly wanted to say something. Disqualifies. Yeah, that's what we're saying now. What do you mean disqualify? That if it's not done in the right way. Right. Okay, so that's what the Gemara is answering, is that pouring is only okay for the Korban Pesach. It's not okay for the Korban. Yeah. No, but I'm just asking. So what does that have to do with the bracha? Why is that? Somehow it's associated. Therefore, the bracha. Does he say it? Unbelievable. Unbelievable. They bring up shot. They go through the problem, like what's the connection? This is the Koran. And then at the bottom, he quotes from someone, Re'im Horowitz. I've seen him quote before, but I'm not sure who that is. He says that it's not a machlekes about the eating of the lechal. There was a bracha that was said when they put the blood. So here the machlekes Rabbi Yishmael and Rabbi Akiva is the bracha on the placing of the blood. Does it cover one? Does one cover the other? If Rika is b'chlal shvicha, then you could say one blessing over both mitzvahs because it's one mitzvah. Because shvicha includes the pouring, includes not the eating. If it's a bracha on the eating, then it's funny. Like, what does the eating of it have to do with how you sprinkle the blood back in the base of Mikdash? It has nothing to do with that. So he says it's talking about not the bracha of the eating, it's the bracha that the kohen makes when he's sprinkling the blood. Can he say one bracha for both? And that would only be if the application of the blood is done the same, or if it would be acceptable, or if it's included in that type of. It's an interesting pshat. Okay. Now the Gemara says, "Akati lachi udasa," and you think you covered all your bases, everything is good, but mibayle Look at the Tanya. We needed for something else. The dam zevachach yishafech. We learned in a brayse. Rabbi Shmuel Eimer. Shmuel says, "Mitoich shenemar." Since the pasuk says, "Ach b'char shar, oy b'char kesef, oy b'char eis," gives you three options of firstborn animals. What does the pasuk say? It's Midbar 18. What is it? 18:1? 18:17. Yeah, over here it says, however, firstborn ox, firstborn sheep, firstborn goat should not be redeemed, for they are holy. Their blood should be sprinkled on the altar, and their fat should be burnt as a fire offering, as a pleasant aroma to God. Their meat will be yours. It will be yours, may be eaten by you and your family, like the breast of the wave offering and the right thigh. This is, what does it mean, yours? Yours means the Kayan. It's talking to the Kayan. Okay. Charshar, Charkesa Vayez, Leisifta, Eschelbam Takti Shel Hashem, Ubesaram Yalach, and the flesh will be yours. Okay, now, let's see. Lamadnu lebechar shatan matan damim ve'imurim legabe mizbeach. This teaches us because the pasuk says, "Es damam tisreik, eschelbam takter ishareach laHashem." You sprinkle the blood and you burn the fats. This is teaching us that you have to put the fats in the blood of the firstborn animal on the altar. Meiser pesach minayin. How do you know that that's how it works by a meiser animal? The 10th animal that's sacrificed as well. And how do you know that that's how it works by a korban pesach, that you have to put the blood on? Talmud Laimar, the pasuk says, "V'dam zevachach yishafech," that the blood of the offering has to be poured. So I have a source to teach me that a meiser and a pesach is put on the altar. Dam zevachach yishafech. So how could you use the pasuk to tell me that one application of blood is satisfactory when using it for something else? My answers. Savalak Rabbi Akiva. We're not following that teaching. We're following. I'm sorry. Savalak Rabbi Yossi Aglili. We're following Rabbi Yossi Aglili. That's a friend of Rabbi Akiva. The Tanya was taught in a brayse. Rabbi Yossi Aglili Aimer Damoy Leinamar Ela Damam. If you look in this pasuk over here, 18:17 in Bamidbar, it says Es Damam Tisrek Al Hamizbeach. Es Chelbam Takter. Now Damam means their blood. It's a plural. So in Chelbai Leinamar, it doesn't say its fat. It doesn't say its blood. It says Leinamar Ela Chelbam. It says their fat. The plural is coming to include other sacrifices that they're also put on the altar. So I'm not learning from the Dam Zevachach Shafech, Parshas Re'eh. I'm learning from in Bamidbar, Parshas Kairach. It's talking about what the Kayanim get. It says that over there it says their fat, their blood is coming to include those. Okay, now a little bit of an issue. Because if you look back at what we did with Rabbi Shmuel, see, had a Rabbi Shmuel that's taught that Dam Zevachach Yishafech is coming to teach me that Meiser and the Pesach goes on the altar, that the blood and the fat go on the altar, the application of the blood goes on the altar. And then I had a Rabbi Shmuel before that taught me that Zrika, that Shvicha is Bichlal, if you make a bracha on the Pesach, that covers the Chagiga, that Zrika is Bichlal Shvicha. Shvicha, I'm sorry, is Bichlal. Zrika is Bichlal Shvicha. That sprinkling is included in the pouring. Now, if that's the case, then we were saying that we can only fit with Rabbi Akiva, because Rabbi Akiva doesn't have Zrika B'chlal Shvicha. Because if you had Zrika B'chlal Shvicha, then we would say that Dam Zevachach Yishafech is coming to tell me that even if I poured it, what was supposed to be sprinkled, it's still satisfactory. Which means that Rabbi Shmuel uses Dam Zevachach Yishafech to teach me Zrika B'chlal Shvicha. Rabbi Shmuel also uses Dam Zevachach Yishafech to teach me that the Bechar and the Meiser are put on the altar. So Rabbi Shmuel, Haikra Mapikle Lahachi, Mapikle Lahachi. Rabbi Shmuel is using the pasuk for two things as well. In our discussion here, it comes out that we quoted Rabbi Shmuel saying this, we quoted Rabbi Shmuel saying that. It comes out problematic. My answer is straight to Nayalib the Rabbi Shmuel. There's two students of Rabbi Shmuel, and was one of them a Tana Debei Rabbi Shmuel? No, we didn't see that. Okay, so there's two students according to that teach the teachings of Rabbi Shmuel. Of Rabbi Yehuda, the students of Rabbi Yehuda we had yesterday. Okay, Bishleim the Rabbi Shmuel the Mukam Lakul beBechar. Rabbi Shmuel over here, when in this pasuk about Bechar, he says that when it says Damam, it's referring to the Bechar. And so, what does it mean? Why is it a plural? Because, one second, Rabbi Shmuel holds that Dam Zevachach Yishafich is coming to teach me that the Bechar, that the Meiser and the Pesach have to be put, the blood needs to be put on the altar. So, what does he do with the word Damam, with the plural? If it's not including the Bechar and the Meiser, if it's not including the Meiser and the Pesach, it's talking about several types of Bechar. Bechar Shar, Bechar Kesev, Bechar Eiz. The goat, the firstborn of the goat, the firstborn of the sheep. So now, if you continue reading the verse, it says, "Hainu d'ksiv u'besaram yelach." The flesh should be yours. It's only talking about the firstborn animal, and the flesh of the firstborn animal belongs to the kayin. But Rabbi Yosi, who's Rabbi Yosi Aglili, he said that the word dam, it could have said damai. Why does it say damam? To tell me about Meiser and Pesach. Also, the blood goes on the altar. 1 second. When you try to read the following verse, it says, "And the flesh will be yours." What do you mean yours? You're talking to the Kayanim. The Meiser and the Pesach is not theirs. The firstborn animal is the Kayans. The Meiser and the Pesach goes to the owners. Meiser Pesach bailama achlilei. Maya basar mielach. How could you continue reading the verse? According to Rabbi Yossi Aglili, it's not talking about the Kayanim. It is talking about the Kayanim, and we know that it doesn't go to the Kayanim. The Gemara answers, "B'saram, their flesh is echatam v'echat balmam." Coming to tell me, not the flesh of the Pesach and the Meiser, rather the plural, their flesh, is referring to the Bechar, the firstborn animal, whether it has a blemish or not a blemish, goes to the Kayin. Limeid al Bechar balmam shnitin l'Kayin, and it's coming to teach me that a balmam goes to the Kayin as well. Okay. That we don't have any other source for that anywhere else in the Torah that the balmum goes to the kayin. We have the source from here. Ubesaram, the plural, teaches me that it goes to the kayin. Now the problem is, how does Rabbi Shmuel know that? He says that it's talking about the different types of bechar, bechar shar, bechar kesef, bechar eish. Shmuel nafkali melcha yeh de seifa. He learns that it says l'chayiyah. If you go to verse 19, which is we were reading from 17 and 18. If you go to verse 19, it says, "I have given to you and to your sons and daughters along with you all the gifts of the holy offerings, which are set aside by the children of Israel for God as eternal portions. It is an everlasting covenant, salt before God, for you and your descendants along with you. L'cha u'lazaracha itach." So when it says over here, Shmuel nafgalei milacha yiyah. Oh no, I read too far. I'm sorry. It's at the end of verse 18, not 19. Basar miyalach kachaziyat nuvak shekemin l'cha yiyah. To you it should be. At the end of verse 18. It will be yours. Then in the English they leave it out because it's redundant. The pasuk starts off. The flesh will be yours, like the thigh of the right, like the right thigh. It should be yours. The translation just drops it. But our Gemara is saying is that repetition is coming to tell me that they get it even if it's a balmum. Bishleim Rabbi Yossi Aglili the Mukalinami b'Meiser Pesach and the Ksiv leSifte Kaidashem Hein Kraven Vein Tumurasam Kreva. It says that you should not redeem them. And what does that teach me? It teaches me that he says, Rabbi Yossi says it's talking about the Meiser and the Pesach. Because Meiser and the Pesach can't be redeemed. The Tanan, started in the Mishnah, Tmuras Bechar u'Meiser, the exchange animal of a Bechar, of a firstborn, or of a Meiser, Hein uvladan uvladblad Seif Kol Ha'olam, them and their offspring, and their offspring's offspring, to all generations, they're just like the Bechar Meiser, and they have to get a blemish and they're eaten. L'bailam. So the owners eat it, not the kohen. Okay, why is this? Let me go further. The Tanan was taught in the Mishnah. I'm Rabbi Yeshua. Rabbi Yeshua says we explained why this is with Rabbi Yeshua. Shemati, I heard shetmuras Pesach kreva, tmuras Pesach ena kreva, that an exchanged Pesach is brought, and I also heard that exchanged Pesach is not brought. Exchange means it was flipped it was tried to be changed for another animal. What do you do with that new animal that you just changed the carbon Pesach for? So I heard once that it was brought, and I heard also once that it's not brought. Mainly Lefarsh, but I don't know the explanation. We explained that why is Rabbi Yeshua the one that says this? Do you have it in your notes from last time?
No.
That
I'm sorry, this is the
Yitzi tells me the
jokes
that I said that from last time around. Yes.
Come up with new material.
So we're just repeating old stuff. So Rabbi Yeshua, it says Asher Yaladatay, that praised is his mother. Remember the 5 students of Rabbi Yechon Mitzaki? One of them was Rabbi Yeshua ben Hananya, that his mother brought him to the Beis Medrash to learn. So that's why we have over here Shemati. Rabbi Yeshua says, I heard, but can't explain it, because when he heard it, he wasn't able to ask them what's the explanation, because he was a baby in the cradle. So he wasn't able to. He cried, thinking that they're gonna understand that he wants an explanation. They gave him a bottle instead of an explanation. Ben Hanani was a Levi, yeah. That's the Gemara Sukkah. Okay. Let me see what the Gemara is saying from this. It says, according to Rabbi Yossi Glili, it works out well because he says that we're talking about when it says Damam Tizraik, it's referring to other karbanos besides for the Bechars, referring to the carbon Pesach and the carbon Meiser as well. So that's why it says Leitifta, you can't redeem it, which teaches me that you don't offer that as a sacrifice. The redemption, which means the Tmura, is not offered as a sacrifice. So what do we have over here? We have, if it's referring to, where does it say Leitifta? In this pasuk, which Rabbi Yossi Aglili says is including the carbon Pesach as well, it says Leitifta, don't redeem it. Now, what does that teach me? That you don't bring it as a sacrifice. Only the original is brought, not the secondary. It comes along Rabbi Yeshua, and he says that the exchange one is not brought. He says, I don't know which one is brought, which one isn't brought, but I know that one of them isn't brought. Now, the way it's explained is that if the redemption was done before Pesach, which means that it was ineligible to be a carbon Pesach, so then you don't bring it. But if the exchange was done, this is explaining what Rabbi Yeshua didn't know the explanation for. But if it was Pesach had passed, the carbon Pesach automatically turns into a carbon shlamim, and then the person goes along and he says, I'm exchanging this animal for another animal, then as a shlamim, then it is brought. Tmura of a shlamim is brought. A tmura of a Pesach is not brought. So what comes out is that a tmura Pesach is not like a tmura shlamim, and we learn that a tmura Pesach is not brought. And that would explain, that fits well with Rabbi Glili that says that this pasuk Leitifta is also referring to Karban Pesach. El Rabbi Shmuel, but according to Rabbi Shmuel, the Mukile Kul B'Bachar says we're only talking about a Bachar. Ma'aser Pesach like Revet Masan Minale. Where's he going to know that the Karban Pesach and the Karban Ma'aser that are exchanged, that they're not actually brought as a sacrifice? We're saying that you get a mum, and then they're eaten as with the mum, with the blemish. According to Rabbi Shmuel, we don't know that. When he answers, Ma'aser Gamar Avara mi Bechar. It says by the Bechar of Avaita Kol Peterechem. You will pass through all the firstborn, all the opening of the womb. It says the word Havara. It also says the word Havara by Ma'aser. Kol Asher Yaver Tachas Hashevet. Or it says Hashavet, actually. Anything that passes under the staff. You know, when they would walk through, they would like tap it and say number 1, number 2, number 3, until they got to number 10. All right. So it says the word Yavar over there. So we learn Yavar from Bechar, from Bechar, that you don't bring it as a sacrifice if it's a Tamura. Where do we know Pesach from? We're explaining according to Rabbi Shmuel. Pesach, by Pesach it says clearly, it says Kesev. Matam Laimar Im Kesef. Why does it have to say Im Kesef? If a sheep. This is actually referring to, it says by the Shlamim, Im Kesef. L'Rabbeis Tmuras Pesach, Lachar Pesach Shetik Shlamim. It's coming to tell me that an exchange Pesach after Pesach is brought as a Shlamim. Yachal Aflifnei Pesach Kain. Maybe even before Pesach, it should also be brought as a sacrifice. Talmud Laimar, who? It says Zevach Pesach who. This is a limitation. This is an exclusion that only the Karban Pesach itself is brought, but not the exchange, not the Tamura. That's not brought. So Rabbi Shmuel has other sources. Learn this, even though we thought it fit perfectly with Rabbi Glili, but turns out that he has other sources. Okay. V'kol hanach tanoi. What we just did was we said, in order to clear up our brisa, we said that Dam Zavachim Daf is referring to the one application of blood that's satisfactory, that qualifies the whole sacrifice. We said that all the other sages that are learning using it for other things, they don't hold of us. We go like this one, we go like that one. So all those other ones, where are they going to know that one application of the blood is going to be satisfactory? When it says, Sabri Luke, Beis Hillel, the Amri, Af, Chatas, Shnit, the Matanachas, Kiper, Bialfikul, Michatas. If you hold that a Karban Chatas is only one application of blood is really required, the rest of them are extra, are for the mitzvah, but it's not ma'akiv, doesn't withhold the validation of it. So then, and I have a source for that, which we'll learn later. So then I can learn from other sacrifices from the Karban Chatas.
Not the one, Doc.
The opposite. Karban Chatas, there's an application on each of the 4 corners. And that teaches me, and so I could learn as from the Karban Chatas as a precedent to the other ones. Okay, let's go a drop further. Yeah, we can. Or what time is Shacharis?
Where's the Shas bag?
43. So I can go another 2 minutes. So we'll go to the bottom. Okay, now what the Gemara says like this. It says V'chata shtei matanis. Says the Karban Chatas, according to Beis Shammai, there's 2 applications of the blood which are required, even though it's supposed to be 4. But Beis Shammai says 2 of them are essential, and Beis Hillel says even 1. Even one is satisfactory, and the other 3 are just for the mitzvah. Amar Rav Huna, my time with the Beis Shammai. Rav Huna says, what's the reason for Beis Shammai? Gemara explains that it says about the application of the blood. It says karnais, karnais, karnais. It says 3 times in the psukim. It says the word karnais. The psukim go like this. Then it says.
Is there a song like that? What is this?
Dr. Stein is telling you about
listen to?
Unafutz Seino Kanes.
What do you listen?
That's a different.
Different spell.
That's a kuf. That's where we have a kuf. That's a kuf, and that has a resh. Kanes has a resh. Okay. And that's a sama.
Very Roman.
Remember the balak story?
Yeah.
Very Roman.
Okay. And then it also says V'nasan al karnes mizbach ha'ila. It says V'nasan al karnes mizbach ha'ila twice. It says V'nasan karnes mizbach. So it says 3 times karnes. Now I just want to point out that it's written without a vav. At least 2 of them are written without a vav. We'll see in a second. But we read it as karnais. Karnais. Without the vav, the way it's written, it could be read karnas, which would be the corner of. Karnais means the corners, plural. But karnas means the corner of. So it could be a singular. So Beishami holds like this. That the reading is what the main way. There's 2 ways of looking at the verses in the Torah. One is you look at the way it's pronounced, and one is you can look at the way it's written. So Beishami says you look at the way it's pronounced. Since you read it as a plural, so then you're left with Harikan Sheish. It's mentioned 6 times because it says 3 times Karnais, and each one is a plural. So that means minimal plural is 2. So that means 6. So what do I do with 6 corners? It says, well, Arba the mitzvah. 4 of them are the mitzvah that you have to put on the corners. And Shtayim, because it's repeated, it's obviously talking about 2 of those corners the second time. Anything that's repeated when it comes to Karbanos, 1 is for the mitzvah. The repetition of it is to tell me that if you don't do it, then it's essential and it invalidates the sacrifice. So the 6 is really 4 plus 2 of them are doubled. That's la'akiv. Beis Hillel, what does Beis Hillel do? They say you don't need 2. They say you only need 1. So they learn it like this. They said twice it says karnois, karnois. Sorry, twice it says karnas, karnas, and then it says karnois. 1 of them has a vav, 2 of them without a vav. So they look at the main thing is the way it's written, not the way it's pronounced. The way it's written without the vav, which means singular. So 2 of them are singular. So 2 singular and 1 plural gives me a total of 4. Harikan arba, shalish lemitzvah, ba'achas la'akiv. 4 of them are the mitzvah, and 1 of them is ma'akiv. So 1 second. Emakulu the mitzvah. Maybe they're all a mitzvah. How do you? Usually when it doubles, then you have la'akiv. Here you just told me that there's 4, and you just decided that 1 of them is ma'akiv. It says kapara b'chdila yashkechan. It's impossible that you should get a free atonement. Obviously, you needed 1 application. Yeah, obviously you needed 1. So then, so even to say 1, so 1 of them is considered extra because obviously you needed 1. All right.
Why can't you say the extra 1 is whatever blood's left over, it pours down the little 2 holes? Anyways, he does his 4 sprinkling, so it's 4 corners, and then there's a little corner at the bottom with it, and he has to pour down there.
That's something else. That's another.
Yeah, but so I'm just saying, it's something else. At least you have a reason for it.
I don't know. Okay. You're saying, I'm sorry?
Sorry. So you have 3 that are for the mitzvah, but you have 4 corners. Aren't you missing a corner then?
So it says 4 times because 2 plus 2, right? It says 2 singular and then 1 plural. That's 4. And so 3 are mitzvah and 1 of them is essential. The Gemara asks, but how do you know 1's essential? It just says a regular 4 times. So maybe they're all 4 are just the mitzvah. Didn't repeat it. It says no, 1 of them is obvious. So 1 of them is considered repeated because you need to have some application of the blood.
Oh, without any of them at all, you would know already 1.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The commentaries ask that that's an interesting logic. So according to Beis Shammai, you're going to be left with 3 that are essential instead of 2. Because 1 of them is obvious, and now I have 2 extras, so I'm going to be left with 3. But anyway, we're dealing with Beis Hillel. Okay. Iba Yisema, there's another pshat. Haina time of the Beis Hillel. What's the reason for Beis Hillel? Beis Hillel says like this: Ahani Mikra Ani Maseches. I'm going to look at the way it's read. Mikra means the way it's read. And Ani Maseches, and I'm going to look at the tradition, which means the way that it's written. Ani Mikra, I look at the way it's read, L'tui Chada, to add an extra corner. Ani Maseches, I'm going to look at the way it's written to delete one. So if I look at the way it's written, we'll look at the way it's read, I'm going to have 6. If I delete one of that, then I'm going to be with 5. Oh, so you start off with 6, you delete one because of 5, because of the way it's written. And so I have 5. Now, there's no 5 corners to the altar. So what do you do with that? What do you do with the extra one? The extra one is coming to repeat that one of the corners is miyakiv. And that's exactly what Beis Hillel holds. Where it says Elamiyata, if that's the case, we could leave this here. Let's leave it right here. Elamiyata. All right.
One more. I need 2 more words.
We're up to the Elamiyata by the
2
tefillin.
more words. Just
Thank
you.
Okay. Let's make a line here.
Cookie took a long time.
Say hi to Naftali.
I
No, Sally's
was
on.
you talk.
Say hi to
Thank you.
Okay.